Well, usually I had this whole class plan. It was going to get rolling right away. Not planned, but usually there are two not great things for you before I class. If I'm listening to all sorts of weird music, as you know, or if I'm writing, and I've been writing this morning. So it's one of those things. So I'm thinking about talking a little bit quick, not quick, but well, yeah, quick relative to what it could be. So the mission statement of Mind Body Solutions is transform trauma, loss, and disability. And the outside world, and this is true, the perception from the outside world is um which is partly true and a lot true, is that we're trying to help people heal trauma, loss, and disability, right? But part of my life's work is paying attention to both trauma, loss, and disability relative to what it reveals about human consciousness. So it's been my field work, so to speak, right? At the same time. And the good news about what I've chosen to do is as I've been thinking about stuff and wondering about stuff, I've been able to help myself and others along the way. All right. So, so usually we talk about, loss and disability, and then there's the trauma part, right? And so I'm on like the 100th revision of a hard one again on this book. And I've been sitting there trying to think about how to say to someone that isn't as far into it as most of us, why would you want to realize, become more appreciative of the sensation of emptiness, right? Which is kind of weird, right? When you think about it. Why would you do that, right? And trying to get it in a way that's almost like an elevator speech without sounding hollow. Like, I've got all these different things. Like when I encounter that kind of like, well, why would you even pay attention to what is, I think, an essential and also profound aspect of human consciousness is that we're aware of our own emptiness. So take that in for a second. We're aware of our own emptiness. And part of what's the foundation of mind body solutions is mental awareness of emptiness is not the best way to process the existential sensation of emptiness, right? All these words sound like words, right? But if you do it just with your mind, you're going to end up kind of on a downward spiral. And part of, I think, human beings in general have tried to process the sensation of emptiness with their minds, which and the survival instinct, which is to try to fill it. And when you try to fill it, you end up with trying to make more money. It's always more. It's always trying to fill an emptiness, right? Part of the point of this book is to try to say, no, there's got to be other ways to process this sensation. So put a period in that. I'm going to focus a little bit for a little bit here more on the trauma side of it. One of the reasons why I've been working so long with trauma and alongside of it is I think trauma reveals how human consciousness works near its very core. And the fact that trauma can dysregulate human consciousness right near the core. And I've had versions, I'd say, of PTSD, like and that's an overused word a little bit, but it's fine because it's everyone's on a continuum of PTSD, like or everyone's had, especially on this call, we kind of know, right? So that it reveals that it can become dysregulated near the core. And I would say, because of the life changes that most of us have had on this call, I would say, believe me, this will get to yoga. I would say we're more aware because the horizons of our life have changed or have never been the same as everyone else. We're more aware of the inherent emptiness and trying to, because we don't quite fit in, we haven't been allowed to stay as, I don't like this word, unconscious of the way the world usually gives us meaning, right? So it comes down to on some level the sensation of emptiness. And I'm trying to say in this book, it matters. And I actually think it leads to nonviolence and compassion, but that's not even in the book. So when you think about when we center and the sensation of emptiness, I'm going to give you a little bit more. So there's two parts to, so we're switching again to now words that are more scientific and maybe gives you think it's where I'm just not making stuff up. Um, Supposedly there's the autonomic nervous system, and there's two fundamental branches of it. There's the sympathetic nervous system, which we've all heard about, which is fight or flight, right? And then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, which um, is more integrative, right? So if you think about fight or flight, if all of a sudden I was sitting here and a saber-toothed tiger started coming at me right now, and it was like, and I was outside and it's coming for me, like on every fiber of my being, survival is going to kick in and I'm going to narrow my focus to getting away, right? I'm either going to fight. Let's not make it saber-tooth. Let's make it a tiger, right? I'm going to fight or I'm going to run my ass. And pretty much every moment, every fiber of my being is in a fight or flight thing, right? And if you think about that narrowing of focus, that's a response and a focusing of the emptiness that's usually in the experience. It becomes very focused and you go for it. Now, fight or flight is one of those things we hear about as a symptom of PTSD, right? That you take the spread out nature of your consciousness and it becomes really focused, right? So parasympathetic nervous system is the quieter part. It's maybe what we get more in touch with when we exhale, when we center. And if you think about what I've been teaching for a long time and trying to share, has been how do you keep that part of our nervous system in movement? That's what asana's after, right? Like how does effortful effort become effortless? How do you realize that relief is part of every movement, even a painful movement? These are really hard things to happen because, especially when you're in pain, you kind of go to the avoidance, fight, or flight thing, right? So it's like, how does, in some ways, when you hear things like shavasana's in every pose, um, and which is one of those lines that sounds simple and we kind of like talk about it together. There ain't nothing simple about that line, by the way, right? And trying to find what it is and how you get access
Okay.
to the part, someone probably needs to turn off their mic, have to try to get access to that part of our consciousness. I think the quiet part of our consciousness is the more connected part of our consciousness, even though it appears to the mind to be empty. So sit up straight and tall. Now, one other ridiculous thread that's deeply simply related, but it seems weird. Think about a calm mind is unknowable. Think about the kind of self-realization, which is different than self-knowledge. Self is amorphous. You can't exactly know what it is, but maybe it can be a sensation. One final piece. In neuroscience, they're talking about the default mode network, which turns out to be kind of down the midline of the brain. So when you're just sitting there being quiet and not trying to get through your day and thinking about all the things you haven't done or your sense of persistent failure, whatever, the thing that like you carry all the time, right? That it turns out that, or uncertainty or unknown, it turns out that that part, if you scan the default mode network, it happens down the midline of the brain generally. right? And they think they call that kind of a little bit hyperbolically the mohawk of self, meaning that when you're not thinking and occupied with your mind, the pattern of your brain there is maybe what they're default calling self. It's oversimplistic. So start to become more aware of your exhale. When I ask you to feel, let go of your cheeks and try to feel a space between the skin on your forehead and your skull. Relax the base of your tongue to relax the inner ear. Relax the belly to relax the throat. As I occupy your mind with letting go, noticing your breath, allowing your exhale to land you. This part of us gets exposed by trauma, loss, and disability. When I try to say we try to transform trauma, loss, and disability from body to mind, let that quiet be there and very gently lift your chest. Include the unknowable parts of you, the unseen parts of you. Your mind doesn't have to know it. Your body lives it. Ignite emptiness in a good way by lifting your chest. Feel your feet on the floor, on your foot pedals, your sitting bones. Put structure underneath the eternal emptiness that is in the center of your chest. Support it. Drop your shoulder blades, spread between the shoulders, broaden across your collarbones. Hit down, rise up. All this to hold sacred the emptiness in the most important part of your spine, in what yogis call the center of consciousness. Not the emotional heart, the empty heart. Notice equal distribution of air into each nostril, connection to each sitting bone, connection to each foot on the floor. Helps you realize what was already happening. You animate emptiness. Let go of your day. Bring the knowable and unknowable parts of you into movement. Don't let that be a thought. Let it be a body to let mind realization. Good. And then release. Sternum up towards you. So when you release, you go kind of farther into just the drop part of the emptiness. Lift the sternum up. Bring a little bit of fire. Drop the chin in humility. Use the spine as the center of consciousness of animation. The mind just picks and judges. Keep the lips together, teeth slightly apart. Let your breath touch the bottoms of your feet. It already does. Let it fill the room. Good. And everyone but the McCrae's release. Okay. Raise your head up with closed eyes, open your eyes. As you're sitting there, just for a second, I like your where your hand is on Michael's shoulder, but like I'd put just a gentle pressure, maybe even just with one finger between his shoulder blades with the other hand. So he gets the lift. Mm-hmm. So what's funny about or revealing and then release what's funny about so he, with cerebral palsy, when there's a change of energy, it's processed through movement, right? All right, bring your hands into prayer. If your elbows can be on your thighs, great, on the table, great. If not, just bring your hands into prayer. So, as you know, in asana, there's a really important function of the midline, right? But let's think of the midline. I think it's not a coincidence that the mohawk of self is also down the midline. So when you equalize the pressure between your hands, instead of pushing more with one than the other, if you take the subtlety to equalize it, feel more of the connection, maybe you can find the center of your chest a little bit better. So I've got dysfunction between my shoulder blades because of my scoliosis. So I need to take, if I want to like equalize the pressure there, I have to do I have to do some work. I have to derotate my rib cage. I have to do some things, right? Everyone's got a little bit of weirdness of asymmetry, just so you know. Like you probably have more weight on one sitting bone than the other, right? There's some things going on. So now when you get for what it's going to be as in the midline as possible, increase the pressure between your hands. Use that to raise your spine. Drop your shoulder blades. Have your whole body support your inhalation. And the midline elongates on exhalation. Another inhale. And then they say in one ancient text in yoga that your exhalation ends 12 fingers above the top of your head. It dissipates into the ether. What? Well, just watch. Inhale, exhale as you elongate your spine. You go down and up. There's a point at which it's just your imagination as it goes past the top of your head. How do yogis know this? They practice. Good, and then release. All right. All right. So remember, we're talking about trying to get to the midline. They're all different ways. You're moving around like so one way to find the center of your sitting bones is to go off balance, right? To feel one sitting bone more than the other, weight on one foot more than the other. This is so much more than just waking up and moving forward and back. You're trying to open the repertoire of sensation so the sensation of center actually means something to your mind, right? Because again, we're looking for the midline, then connect to each sitting bone. Now, if you try to broaden across your very low back, which is kind of a way to activate the bottom part of your diaphragm from the back side, I want you to, at the same time, try to roll your inner upper thigh in and down. And when you try to do both at once, I want you to lift your chest as you elongate your spine. We're looking for the midline now. How to create reference so I can see what the emptiness and feel it that exists between my sitting bones, up through my spine, into my mouth, and through the top of my head. Keep that midline Lift your sternum and drop your chin. The action is supposed to support the midline. Good. And then raise your head up. Again, this is a lot of focus, huh? Right? Right? It's like, wait, I want to move around. I'm here to move. I'm here to move. Remember, the first yogis actually opened up asana from sitting on the ground. They weren't moving. It doesn't look like historically. They were sitting there in stillness and started to realize action from stillness, right? They stripped down to the studs, found the spine, and then I'm guessing, developed asana as an expressions and confirmation of the midline. All right. So now just take a look at your arm, whatever arm you can have the most access to. So there's another trick. Like I used to teach these classes on the middle third of everything, right? Like work the middle third, work the middle third, right? What the hell does that even mean? So put your arm down. So usually when I instruct stuff like dog pose with your hands on the table or on your thighs, I'm usually saying, hey, press down through the index side of the hand and then roll the upper arm out. So I'm instructing around it, right? Because that's an easier action to do. If I press my hand into the table and I lengthen my upper arm, then more clarity goes through my elbow, right? And so I'm going to do it on the other side, right? I'm going to this is how I usually instruct this, right? So then I press down through and I roll my inner upper arm up and I drop my shoulder blade girdle down a little bit. And then what receives stuff is the middle third actually engages of my arm, right? My elbow pit. All right. So now that's how we usually instruct it because that's an easier action. Now put your hands on wherever you do. I right now on this one, I've got instead of on the table, which I know some of you don't have, right? And I'm just doing it on my knees. But instead of really activating my palms and the things I usually teach, I want you to stretch the middle third of your arm. And you go, wait, I don't know how to stretch the middle third of my arm. Right? I don't have a muscle that goes right to the middle third. I've got control of things around the middle third. And I'm telling you to stretch the middle third. So what do you do? How do you stretch the middle third? What do you have to do to believe you're stretching the middle third? Did anyone end up having to go to the center of your palm as you tried to stretch the middle third? Angelique, yes or no? Were you even trying to do the instruction, Angelique? For God's sakes, help me out here.
My computer's slow. Yes, I was. I was just sitting here trying to think. I was like, I was trying to think of breaking my arm up into thirds, and I was like, did I start from the middle bone? And then I was like,
No, it's hard because what ends up having to do, you can't actually go directly to the middle third. You have to go to the palm and the shoulder blade
yeah.
and the upper arm because there's an unknowable part of the emptiness. And it has to receive to be realized, right? Try it again. So now when you try to, is the problem with this is the middle third's freaking everywhere. You notice one of the lines in my book is that if you look at the midline, how come bones are always there first? What the hell? Every midline in my body pretty much has a bone in it. I think bones might be, like I say, there's a party of consciousness and it happens in the midline and the bones are the first ones there, right? So now as you're trying to stretch the middle third, watch the midline, watch the center of your palm, work around it. And once you start to does anyone, when you get this stretch of the middle third, unless you're really willful and you overdo it, do you kind of feel your whole body more? Yes, no, thumbs up. Yeah. What the fuck is that? How could the middle third open my whole body? Because my consciousness is wired for emptiness. I just have to get my mind out of the way. The mind that wants to do, right? Did I just drop an F-bomb? I apologize for the F-bomb, right? But this kind of stuff blows my mind that I can go from one part and have the whole thing light up, right? Good, and then release. So now when I take my arms wide or take one arm wide or whatever, usually I do it from all the other places, right? But if I start the action from the midline, in other words, bring my shoulder blade back into my shoulder blade back towards the midline. And then instead of trying to like expand my palms too soon, what if I try to stretch the middle third of my arm and then let it catch the palm, right? And then I do it like that. Is anyone feeling their sitting bones and down their legs? What the hell is going on here?
I'm feeling my feet. It's amazing.
Isn't that crazy? That's part of why you hear me say the joints are interconnected and the emptiness in the joints. We've been doing Shavasana. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that is like, what is going on? The integrative part of the nervous system is consistent with action. The parasympathetic nervous system is in action too. Good, and then release. So when I was talking to a leading neuroscientist in the world, right, I'm talking about, so you want your parasympathetic system to be really high too with your fight or flight. She goes, no, what matters is the relationship between the two. Doesn't matter what, all of us are on a different part of the spectrum of how those two interact. You want the relationship between the two to actually be in a good ratio. Doesn't matter where it happens on the scale, right? All right. So now take your legs wide. Remember, trauma reveals. It's not just a measure of your capacity to withstand, right? Trauma reveals. I'm moving around because I want my groins to come alive. I want my legs to be expressions of my spine. My advantage and disadvantage is I can't feel my legs in the same way most of you can, right? That's a disadvantage, but the advantage is now when I start doing this, it lights everything up because I'm introducing movement into something that was static, right? So one of the things that's hard about doing standing poses in a chair, which is itself a paradox, right, is that it's hard to stretch the middle third of the leg, right? It's easier when it's in a straight line, at least for the mind, right? So one of the reasons why, so if your legs are wide, if you can reach, put your hands or just one hand on the knee. I got it on the front of the knee. So now I've got a triangle right away between where my hands are. Remember, I don't feel my legs like you do, right? So my hands help me have, my mind gets more active and then I can like feel where my tailbone is. So I start to have a triangle, right? And from that triangle is how I can find my heels. So I'm having multiple spots, light, and then I add my breath as locomotion. Inhale in, exhale out. And then wait, I can tell my neck is turned this way. And I'm interrupting the feeling in the pose. So then the pose corrects itself. And I'm a listener to alignment because I've trained myself to be. So then I start to let the emptiness align my pose. Not my, oh, I've got to keep my head straight. I start to watch the emptiness as the transformative, refining aspect of my asana. Good, and then release. lean over to one side. One of the things that when a yogi, a yoga student starts to realize that the emptiness inside them, and I'm leaning both ways now, the emptiness inside them is that already in perfect alignment. Someone that has a relatively high functioning body gets kind of whacked out about how asymmetrical they are. And part of me wants to go, just welcome to the club, for God's sakes. Right? Yeah. But it's horrifying to them, and they want to correct it because they're used to they thought they were in better alignment than they are. Right? So now remember, when I'm pushing down on my back femur bone and I'm lifting my torso up, I'm trying to find the space in my hip. Right? So I'm jiggling my leg a little bit. So right, there's emptiness in my hip that when we sit too much, a good kind of emptiness, there's emptiness in my hip. And when we sit so much, we lose the importance of this crease of distinguishing between the femur bone and the low back. So I'm pushing it down and lifting out of it to go, and then I'm putting a little rhythm in there. It's like, hey, holy cow, I forgot this was alive. I've been compressing this energy for the whole time. I've been literally flattening the potential of the emptiness, doing it on the other side. I'm going down, I'm pushing down, lifting up, and going like, wait, my mind absolutely forgot to invigorate between my lower body and my torso and my low spine. And it's like, oh God, now I'm going to just go back here and just pop on my tailbone. This is a class we did a couple of weeks ago. I'm popping my tailbone going like, wait, so I'm trying to keep the lid energy in my hips, which now is making my legs, I'm sure it's happening to Bill too, it's making my legs just hum, right? And then I'm going to pop my tailbone and go, oh, that's a standing pose. Holy cow. That's why we tell people to bring as as the torso twists, the tailbone comes into the body. We instruct it differently for traditional students. We talk about legs moving in different directions, but we're actually just trying to get the bottom part of my spine to feed my heart, to feed my chest, right? Oh, I want that. Don't you want that? Don't you want the bottom part of your spine to actually nourish the center of your chest? So I'm not going to go the other way, right? So I'm watching this really, I'm trying to open the space here. I'm trying to use the openness, Angelique, to ground my feet, Bill, right? Everybody, right? I'm trying to get that openness. I'm lifting out of it. I'm adding some rhythm, right? Because that helps my mind realize deeper dimensions. It nourishes my parasympathetic nervous system, which is why we rock when we've been traumatized, right? You start to use rhythm as one of the innovations of human being, right? Then and then I'm going to go, okay, so now I want to get that spark of life from my tailbone as I'm this way, as I'm getting that space in my hip open and I'm jumping in my tailbone, but I'm letting it feed my chest. I'm coming forward and feeding my chest. Damn, it almost makes me, not almost, it makes me appreciative of being alive. Emptiness is not loss. It can enhance the appreciation of living. So most everyone on this call is an expert in the sensation of loss and emptiness. Gonna lift up a little bit. What if as I'm trying to imply in my book, this empty part of our consciousness is the key to our survival. Shit. So I'm bouncing a little bit. I'm animating the space that I thought was dead. So instead of like letting the dead energy make me want to do drugs or make me feel disconnected from the world or make me feel that the world's against me. Because right now, people are using the emptiness in their consciousness, and people have convinced them to be afraid, right? Because that's a primitive way. That's a way to go into fight or flight, right? Right? Have some fear. Here comes the tiger, right? I'm going to take my emptiness and think I'm going to like run from the boogeyman, right? I'm going to start to doubt everything. So I just saw, actually, it was Sophie move shoulders, right? So I think that makes sense. We're doing the legs here. What have we done for the shoulder joint, right? So I'm gonna open here, right? And doing a circle, right? Trying to get life here and this muscle acting, right? So if I were helping Michael with yoga, I would put my hand on his elbow as the arm moved, right? Right? And then I'm trying to open that spot. Now I got to do it on the other side. And I'm trying to get this spot to open, right? So I'm trying to get this energy, which somebody that knows more yoga than me says fear complex hangs right in here, right? I don't know what that even means. I don't know what fear complex is. Except I kind of do. A whole bunch of things. When you first see the tiger coming at you, you probably drop your sternum. You don't meet the tiger with your sternum. You drop it, you run, right? You use the emptiness for survival, right? Good. And then take an arm back, trying to get it more active now. But now, because I want emptiness to talk, I just don't want it to be this muscle. I'm going to take this arm back and push on my opposite femur bone. What? Right? And then I'm not going to take it as far back, but I'm going to make grounding on my femur bone, getting the emptiness in my hip active, right? And then use the life of my hip to open this space here and this space and the grounding to show me where my opposite hip is. Oh, wait. And then I just naturally want to go to my feet. Now, all of a sudden, I'm coming in to Trikonasana, but don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody at all, right? All right. Trikonasana is triangle pose. So now, again, I'm going to start opening here because I'm trying to get this space, right? So I'm doing this a few times, trying to get my mind to finally come to the party, feel things that are actually happening in my body. Then I'm going to lean and press on my opposite femur bone as I move my arm, right? And I'm going to start to like, wait, I can kind of see where this wants to go. This is a whole action. This, with the turn of my spine, is what it is to come up into a traditional triangle pose, right? And I'm pressing down on my femur bone, but because I know yoga, I'm grabbing my opposite knee. So I get the grounding of my legs, the grounding of my legs, the grounding of my legs, right? As I open the space. When all this happens, guess what's sitting there? Your midline's active. Breathe through your midline into your pose. Good, and then release. Back over, right? Ooh. If you notice, I can hardly wear my glasses anymore. I'm gonna I have a cataract on my eye, and so I can't see the screen when I'm wearing my glasses, not as well. So I'm constantly going on and off with my glasses. Must be getting old, right? So I'm going back over now. Pushing on my own legs, right? But now I want to actually make sure my midline is part of my back bend. Hmm. Hmm. So that means the quieter part of me has to be part of my back bend. You don't see me, but I'm being like to myself, I'm thinking, how the hell do I do that? How do I get my midline to be part of a back bend? And I just wanted it to be easy. And so I go, hey, I love it. It's fun. But now I want the midline. So I'm going to grab, one way to do it is to press on each leg, right? Then if you're a little bit farther along with yoga, you might roll your thighs. I'm grabbing a little bit closer to the knee, and I'm rolling them in and doing Tadasana. So, so instead of just doing this, suddenly, whoa, my holy bright sun here, right? I'm doing this. I'm rolling my thighs in. And as soon as I get the midline, I'm going to want it to come out here, right? So this goes in like water in one part of the fountain, right? And then it's going to come out to air here. So I'm going to go in through my midline, out across my chest, right? And go back over my head and then try it again, right? In, water goes out, broadened across the collarbones to go out. I hate to say I'm so subject to advertising, but does anyone know those Mountain Dew commercials where they're outside and they're living life large? They're going off of rope swings into the water and they're being so cool. And they have a picture of sunlight coming through some guy's long hair, and he goes like this and he throws his hair, and the water goes off of his, and it looks like if I just drank Mountain Dew, I would have that feeling, right? When you go to open your chest across the collarbones, right? After you've like turned the water in towards the midline in Tadasana, and you come back in the back bend out this way, Mountain Dew commercial, right? Or if that doesn't work for you, the way the odor fills the room when you open an orange. I like that one better. That one's in my book, right? You open up the peels and it goes, and it comes out. All right, doing it back bend. So, but before I start now, I want to find my own midline before movement, because once I get in movement, it's hard, right? And I'm going to define my midline. I'm going to try to find my joints, soften the inside of my mouth. Remember, unfortunately and wonderfully, we came out of nothing. We're going to return to nothing. And every pose starts in relief first. It starts before the movement. So you receive the empty stillness, right? Which is at the midline, right? And then I'm going to go and start back, right? So as I go back, my mind wants to have all the party here. I'm going to have the discipline. I got to get out of the sun here. Well, I got to be back here so you can see it. As I start to go back, I'm going to roll my thighs in. That's where the water goes where you can't see it, right? I'm going to follow it through my midline, open. And as I go back up and over my chair, I'm letting it go out this way. And I'm taking a few breaths. Not deep ones though. I'm letting my breath help my pose. So the middle third of your body would be basically between your knees and your, about here, right? So how do you stretch the middle third? So we've done all this prep, right? So I've been showing you where your hips are and the space in your hips. And you already know if you try to too actively stretch the middle third, right? It doesn't work. You have to allow the middle part of your arm. Now, I was even practicing for this class and it got a little too weird. I was trying to stretch the middle third of a finger. You could try it if you have more control over your fingers. If you don't, you can try to do it in the center of your palm. Like you could try to stretch the center of your palm. Wait, in order to stretch the middle third of my finger and not just overdo it here or overdo it here, to stretch, I can't believe when I do this, I feel my whole body. It's effing me up, right? Okay. When I go to stretch my middle third of my finger, I have to surrender. My mind can't solve this problem. I have to receive first. What do I have to receive? The emptiness, the thing my mind can't control. What's revealed by trauma? Emptiness. The mind can't do it alone. That's why I form mind body solutions. Not just to transform my disability. I carry a lot of trauma. Suddenly I'm going to do my whole hand, and all of a sudden my wrist has to straighten out. Now, if I really want to gracefully stretch the middle third of my hands, my fingers, my wrist has to change. My elbow has to change. My palm naturally opens. My elbow pit needs to open, but now it's bent. How do I do that? How do you open your hips? You go through the whole body, and all of a sudden, anyone want to be inhaling as you're trying to do all this? Have you noticed all of a sudden you're inhaling too? You're exhaling the water back out through your midline? For God's sakes. Now, on this last one, how am I going to stretch the middle third? So I've been popping on your tailbone. I've been trying to have you do that. I've been trying to get you to get where you actually think you're not alive because we're sitting too much. So I'm going to bounce a little bit. I'm going to like remember all the stuff. And I'm going to like, just by bouncing a little bit, hope you like the whole class is right there. I'm moving it around, shaking, baking, right? Getting all this shit going together, right? All the stern stuff, which is the Tadasana, rolling the water, getting to go underneath. So I'm going to lean back. I'm going to roll my thighs back. The whole class has been the stern part, right? This, right? But now I'm going to let the tailbone pop up, feed the chest. And before I mountain do it, right? I'm going to be more aware of the crease, the middle third from my thighs up to here. I want that to go upward without movement. Good. And then release. So I've had Bethany put this on the call before. There's a pose, you're lying flat on your back. There's a pose where you put a block underneath your tailbone. It's called Setu Bandha. There's a whole bunch of stuff that tries to get that energy to open. You and I, who sit more than often, at least some of us sit more than most people, we have a problem at the middle third, right? But if you and I can figure out how to open and have the middle third be part of our pose, popping your tailbone in movement, we'll actually know what it means because we know what what it's like not to have it. Because trauma and loss reveal. I like to say we're like camels in yoga. we get the taste of water. All right. Ready for Shavasana? I don't know if you know, all of our bodies in various forms that live with trauma, loss, disability, we're on the frontier of consciousness, where dissipation interacts with life, right? And when you realize that, how that's a seamless boundary, you become more compassionate. All right, so I'm going to let the chair hold me up. I'm going to find my midline. I'm going to know that being aware of what's around it, this shoulder, this sitting bone, this foot, that foot, right? If I'm around the midline, if I'm in structure around the midline, I can receive the emptiness. Can't do the emptiness, but I can receive it. And then take all that and make sure for me right now, I got to keep it in right here. Right. And then I'm going to get in a position where my chair can hold me up. But as it holds me up, I'm going to want to get it to go through all the emptiness. Learning how to take whatever support our lives can give us and move it throughout the whole body. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Relax your jaw, the temples, all the joints, because the joints have the emptiness in them. It's from the emptiness of a joint that creates the potential for movement. Now you're trying to let the emptiness in the joint lead Shavasana. Ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, elbows, wrists, even the joints on your fingers, even your teeth, your gums, the space inside your mouth, your tongue. Feel your breath, don't change it. Thank the stillness in your body. Thank your body. Stillness isn't just heavy. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation. Slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. Close them if you want to. I'm having a hard time wanting to move. I'm really liking the stillness right now. The cessation. I've been having that more lately. All right. So I had all sorts of things. If someone reminds me and I'm still inspired, when I was leading that Shavasana, I was thinking I should teach a class on bones and skin, right? So who knows? Maybe I'll try to do that next week. I probably won't, but and then the other thing that came into me was they're kind of in a, I wish I could do the sing-song voice, but like there's nothing but good ahead, good and bad. There's nothing but good and bad behind. So be in the middle third. Be in the middle third. All right, everybody. Namaste. Spirit to me, bows the spirit in you.